Chapter 1. The Island of the Cannibal Giants. For days, Odysseus, king of the Greek island of Ithaca, rode with his warriors over the calm sea. As he rode, Odysseus felt a great pity for his men. He knew they grieved for their comrades murdered by the one-eyed monster, the Cyclops. He knew they also felt terrible guilt for the foolish actions had made the wind god angry. Now, they had no wind to fill the sails of their 12 fleet ships. Odysseus shared the despair of his men, but he filled his grief with a single vision, the vision of home. Before they had angered the wind god, the Greeks had sailed close to Ithaca. For the first time in 10 years, Odysseus had seen the rocky shores of his island, its green woods and smoke of his hot fires. He'd imagined his wife, Penelope, cooking his dinner for his aging parents and his young son, Telemachus. But now, with Ithaca and his beloved family ever in mind, Odysseus rode for 6 days and 6 nights. Without the help of a single breeze, he and his men rowed without stopping. On the 7th day, the Greeks came upon a mysterious land. They steered their ship towards a cove surrounded by a steep wall of cliffs, making a natural harbor. The Greeks sailed into the harbor through a narrow passage that tied their ships together near the shore. The waters were calm and peaceful. Odysseus felt a strange foreboding. He ordered the crew of his own ship not to move their vessel with the others, but to anchor in near the mouth of the cove. The Greeks had gone ashore. Odysseus climbed a rock to look out over the strange land. He saw the smoke of a fire rising in the distance. Who lived here? He wondered. He quickly returned to his men and ordered 3 of them to climb over the cliffs and explore the land. Find out who lives here, he said. Tell them we wish them no harm. The 3 scouts set out at once. Odysseus and the others waited on the rocky shore for their return. The men had not gone long when horrible screams filled the air. 12 of the scouts charged down the side of the mountain, shrieking and waving their arms. They appeared to have gone mad. What has happened? Odysseus shouted. In trembling voices, the men told their tale. We met a girl at a spring. She invited us to go with her, one said. We entered her house. Her mother appeared, a hideous giantess, tall as a mountain, cried the other. She sent for her husband, another giant, a cannibal. The men broke down sobbing. They told how the cannibal giant had snatched up their friend and eaten him before their very eyes. A roar then shook the harbor like that. Odysseus looked up and saw a legion of giants standing at the top of the cliffs. The bloodthirsty cannibals began picking up huge rocks. They hurled them down the mountainside. Board the ships, Odysseus called to his men. Set sail at once. As the other Greeks scrambled into their ships, Odysseus and his crew ran towards the mouth of the cove where Odysseus' black ship was moored. The rest of the fleet was doomed. The giants heard the rocks down upon the ship's dock in the harbor. The rocks smashed the vessels into splinters and crushed many of the sailors to death. As the Greeks scrambled in agony, the cannibals raced down to the shore and speared men as if they were catching fish for supper. Watching with rage and horror, Odysseus knew he could save the men only aboard his own ship. He drew his lowered sword and slashed the anchor up. Row, row, with all your might, he shouted to his men. Row for your lives. As the screams of the cries of their comrades filled the air, Odysseus and his crew frantically rowed away from the cove with the cannibal giants. Chapter 2. A gift from the gods. Odysseus and his men rowed until the ship was finally safe upon the open sea. As Odysseus started at the wide dark waves, Screams of the dying men still rang in his ears. He realized the curse of the Cyclops was coming true. He remembered the cruel words of the hideous monster. May Odysseus never reach his home alive. May he lose his way, his ships, and all his men. May he find sorrow and trouble on his journey. Odysseus had lost nearly all his ships now. He had lost nearly all his men. 11 vessels had been destroyed by the cannibal giants, but all but 45 of his warriors had been slain. Stunned by their losses, Odysseus and his crew could not speak. He sailed in silence, shaken by the memory of the giants spearing the helpless wounded. Finally, a black ship came upon an island covered with thick and dense woods. The Greeks climbed ashore and collapsed on the rocky bench. For 2 days and 2 nights, Odysseus and his men lay on the hard ground. Mourning, they lost comrades. On the 3rd day, when rosy dawn crept over the island, Odysseus gathered his strength and stood up. He did not wake his crew, for he knew they had lost all heart. They too were stricken to grief, to hunt for food. So soon they would be too weak to sail, and they would die on this island. Desperate to save his men, Odysseus picked up his sword and spear, then set out to search of game. Odysseus climbed a craggy hill and looked up for signs of life. In the distance, he saw smoke rising from the green forest. It rose above the trees and drifted into the sky. And more giants and monsters live on the shore. Odysseus wondered anxiously what might inhabitants and welcoming and kind. Before Odysseus could answer these questions, he knew he must find food for his men. The gods seemed to hear Odysseus' thoughts, for just then, from out of the trees walked a giant stag with towering antlers. Odysseus hurled his spear, killing the stag at once. Then he fashioned a rope from willow twigs, tied the legs of the stag together, hoisted the stag into his shoulders, and carried back to the great camp. Odysseus found his men huddled in a circle, the cloaks wrapped around their heads. Still deep in mourning, they wept bitter tears for their fallen shipmates. They trembled for their own fate as well. Listen, my friends, said Odysseus. You and I shall not go to the land of the dead this morning. This is not our day to die. Until that day comes, we must take care of ourselves. Rise, be well, let's feast on this gift from the gods. The men uncovered their heads. They admired the mighty stag Odysseus had slain for them, and slowly began preparing for the feast. They washed their hands and faces in the sea. After many days of grief and suffering, their hearts began to mend. Chapter 3. The Witch's Spell. All afternoon, Odysseus and his crew feasted on game eaten wine. When the sunset and darkness covered the island, they lay down on the shore and slept peacefully. At dawn, Odysseus roused his men. Friends, I do not know where we are, he said. I know that we are on an island. Yesterday morning, when I went hunting, I climbed the hill and saw the sea all around us. I know that others live here, for I saw smoke rising from the heart of the forest. Before Odysseus could go on, his men cried out. They feared that more horrors like the Cyclops and the cannibal giants might await them on this strange shore. Harness your fears, Odysseus commanded. You have no choice but to explore this island. No, not where we are, or how to find our way home. We must seek help from strangers. Odysseus then paid no hindrance words. They only grew more anxious. Before they surrendered completely to their terror, Odysseus came up with a plan. Listen to me, he said. We will form 2 groups. I'll be the captain of one, and Eurylochus will be captain of the other. Odysseus quickly divided his men. 22 Greeks were placed under his own command, and 22 under his trusted warrior Eurylochus. Reckless and I will cast lots to see which of us will explore the island, said Odysseus. Odysseus and Eurylochus cast lots on my helmet. The lot fell upon Eurylochus. No choice but to lead his men into the heart of the green forest. With great dismay, 22 Greeks lined up behind Eurylochus. Some wept as they watched away through the shadowy trees, fearing their impending death. The Greeks who stayed behind us wept as well. So many of their friends had already been slain that they greedily imagined they might soon lose more. Hour after hour, Odysseus waited for the return of Eurylochus and his band of men, watched the shadows of the forest and listened for their voices. If he had a great mistake by forcing them to set out on their quest, but he dared not share his fears with the men who had remained behind. As the sun setting over the island, Odysseus finally heard the tramping of feet. Eurylochus burst from the trees. He was alone. His eyes were wide with terror. Odysseus and the others rushed forward to hear his story, but Eurylochus collapsed on the ground, shaking and moaning, unable to speak. Odysseus grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled him to his feet. "Where are the others?" he cried. "Why did you leave them?" Eurylochus could not answer. Odysseus shook him again. "Tell us," he demanded. "Are they dead?" "No, not dead," said Eurylochus. Worse than dead." He broke down weeping. "Tell us what happened," Odysseus demanded again. In a shaky voice, Eurylochus told his tale. "We traveled through a forest until we came to a valley. We saw a gleaming stone wall. We stepped through a gate into the clearing. Soon we came face to face with huge wolves and mountain lions with long, sharp claws." "You are attacked by these creatures?" Odysseus asked. Eurylochus shook his head. "They did not attack us," he said. "The wolves licked us and whined like pet dogs. The lions gently pawed and meowed like house cats. It was strange and unnatural. We should have turned back." Eurylochus trembled and covered his face, but Odysseus shook him away. "Go on with your tale," he ordered. "Tell us what happened next." Eurylochus continued. "We were frightened to be greeted so strangely by these creatures," he said. "Moved quickly past them into the inner courtyard of a palace. A voice rang out from the window, a woman singing. She had the most beautiful voice I have ever heard." "Who was she?" asked Odysseus. "I don't know," said Eurylochus. "When we peered through the window, we saw a random being weaving at the loom. She looked like a goddess. She had long braids that shone in the sunlight. Her gown was made of jewels that seemed to change colors as she sang. She wove a cloth made from the most delicate silken thread. I wanted to lead us away at once, for I faced on our journey. But all alone seemed worried. The others called out to her, and she came to our door and invited them in. I held back, hiding, while they rushed forward and home. I could not stop them. They followed her into her house, and she closed the door behind them. Peering secretly through a window, I saw her offer them food and wine. Then she turned back on them, and she mixed a potion of pale honey and wine. As she poured this into their food, I called out to warn them. I feared she was trying to drug them, but the men seemed to not hear. They swallowed the potion willingly. As an instant, they were transformed. They knew where they were or where they had gotten there. They could not remember one another's names or even their own. While they were in this state, the woman tapped each of them with a wand. Suddenly they Eurylochus trembled at the memory. And he heard Odysseus, and the chill went through Odysseus. What horrible thing the witch done to his men. Eurylochus looked up at Odysseus, caught his breath, and finished his dreadful tale. Bristles sprang out all over each man's body, he said. They began to snore like pigs. Their heads turned into pigs' heads. The Greeks cried out and drew back in horror. The enchantress herded the pigmen into a pigsty. Eurylochus said she threw acorns and butternuts to the ground, and they greedily gobbled them up like a swine in a farmyard. For a long minute, Odysseus stared at Eurylochus in silence. Finally, he spoke calmly and decisively. "Take me there," he said. "Show me the way." Eurylochus cried out in anguish. He threw himself at Odysseus' feet and begged for his life. "No, no, never again," he cried. "Let us escape this cursed island now, before the she-monster bewitches us all." Odysseus saw that he could not calm Eurylochus' fears. Neither could he abandon his comrades trapped in the pigsty for the beautiful witch. "Very well. Stay here and rest with the others," he said. "In truth, I'm the leader of all the Greeks on this island. I must say, my men, I will find a way alone."